Hard to believe it's November and all that is coming straight at us. Thanksgiving, the Christmas season with its glitter and pop, and of course, the slow winding down of yet another year. It's a beautiful thing to gather together like we are tonight to listen to beautiful writing. I'm Francine Witte here in New York City, and I want to welcome you to another edition of FBOMB Global Flash Reading. We have a terrific lineup of readers for you tonight, as well as a beautiful audience in the Zoom room. So please settle in, grab a drink, and enjoy. I do like to break the ice with a story, so I'm going to just read my story, Terror at the Top of the World. Okay. Terror at the Top of the World. They're coming, Jean-Louis says. It's louder than yesterday. His father is stirring their supper, beans in a can he pounded open with a stone. Maybe, Jean-Louis says, we should go norther. There is no norther, his father says. He pours some of the beans into his shoe and gives the can to Jean-Louis. I'm not even cold anymore, Jean-Louis says, and look, the ice is turning back to water. Good, his father says. We will need that to drink. I can smell the smoke from all the fires, Jean-Louis says. I couldn't smell them yesterday. That's why we have to practice not breathing, his father says. Soon, all the air will be gone. He takes a deep breath, his chest rising with it. It's good we got here first, Jean-Louis says, eating the last of the beans. It's good the others didn't believe us. The air explodes out of his father's mouth. His father squints, looking south and then souther. They believe us now. There will be thousands of them, Jean-Louis says, millions. They will take all our water, take all our air. Don't be afraid, his father says. The weaker ones will die off. Some won't even make it. We're going to make it, right? Jean-Louis says. Come on, his father says. Practice with me. Try not to smell the smoke. The two of them standing there straight as poles, filling their chests with dimming air. Near, then nearer, the sound of thud boots on the ice crack, the sound of backpack babies crying, then whimpering, then not. Hey. So, as I said, we have a great lineup of readers for you tonight. And our first reader is someone I know from the New York City poetry scene. I've met him in real life. His name is Ron Bass. Ron Bass is the author of the Velveeta Underground 2006 and To My 25th Century Biographer, Biographers 2023. He is currently working on a novel titled A Dry Prustini and a collection of short stories called Linden Haven and Other Stories. Ron Bass.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to read several stories from Talk of the Town, which consists of pieces that appeared in the Talk of the Town column in issues of the New Yorker magazine that were published in an alternate universe. First one is in the Ed Koch Ramble and So-So. Among participants in alfresco sex acts, straights now outnumber gays in Central Park's Ed Koch Ramble. In a fitting tribute that is always amusing to observe, especially when newbies who don't know about it are involved, buried sensors detect the emission of bodily fluids and trigger a booming recording of His Honor's voice asking, "How am I doing?" Walking around with his battered old Leica, George Hammonds felt like he was channeling Kohei Yoshiyuki trolling through Tokyo parks in the 1970s. In his frequent visits to the Ed Koch Ramble, he often saw a number of young men and women, all between 18 and 21, and dressed in matching Paul Smith or Tom Brown outfits, turning tricks. Downtown in So-So, Manhattan's trendiest new neighborhood, built on landfill in the East River south of South Street, one of the most controversial landmarks is the Church of Oprahology Celebrity Center. It opened shortly after Oprah Winfrey acquired the Church of Scientology in an all-cash deal. The Celebrity Center is located on the ground floor of the architectural gem of So-So, the Daniel Libeskind designed hotel and residential tower known as La Tromperie. Carly Manson, the daughter of Charlie Manson and Carly Simon, occupies My Cloud, the penthouse up on the 99th floor. George, on a work-related visit to Carly's studio, observed half a dozen of her devoted interns fluttering around the penthouse, seemingly at work. He recognized them as being among the young prostitutes he saw in the Ed Koch Ramble. He later learned they were performers in Pimp, Carly's newest video piece, currently being shown at Wastrel Gallery on 26th Street. The second piece is The Hidden Origins of Walmart, according to Fergus McWillie. Clowns are the new hipsters. If you don't believe me, one evening you should stop by Clarabelle Wine Bar on Franklin Avenue in Crown Heights, the growing clown enclave located within Brooklyn's Crown Heights neighborhood. You can then observe at firsthand how the clowns are pushing out the hipsters and the Hasidic Jews and the West Indians. Last evening after work, while waiting for a friend at Clarabelle Wine Bar, I had an extended conversation with a 62-year-old Scotsman named Fergus McWillie. Sporting dark blue early Roger McGuinn sunglasses perched on the tip of his nose and dressed in a vintage black and white Harris tweed blazer, a pair of red velvet bell-bottoms custom made for him by Mary Quant in one of her rare forays into men's clothing, and a classic tone-on-tone white high-roll dress shirt from a long-gone Carnaby Street shop, Fergus looked like he had just stepped out of a fashion shoot circa 1966. Here's one strand of his exegesis. He was telling me about being a scholar specializing in the history of magic with reciprocal library privileges at Hogwarts, where he stumbled upon a heretofore unknown history of Voldemort's family. It included an extensive narrative purporting to be about some of Voldemort's previously unidentified descendants. The best known of these is Sam Voldemort, who emigrated to the US at the age of 16. Disguised as a muggle, he established a dry goods store in Arkansas. Around the time of the World War I anti-German hysteria, he changed his name from Sam Voldemort to Sam Walton, and the name of his store from Voldemort to Walmart. Fergus ended his oration by asking, "Now, if this is true, is it any wonder that Walmart treats its workers so shabbily? How would you feel working for a pittance and knowing that all of your hard and underpaid labor is just going to further enrich the descendants of you-know-who?" As Fergus finished speaking, Clarabelle herself bounded up onto the stage at the back of the room and announced to the crowd, "I am delighted to introduce the MC of tonight's cabaret, someone who is near and dear to most of you in the audience, the unofficial mayor of Crown Heights. Come on and give a rousing welcome to Genderella, the perviest clown in the omniverse." The last piece is titled Eustace's Witnesses. In early May, flappers with cocktail shakers at their feet began appearing on selected street corners in Gowanus. They could have been prostitutes, but they weren't. Occasionally, one of them would break into a Charleston as if music only she could hear had just begun to play. Usually, they just stood there silently, each one holding a copy of a late 1920s issue of The New Yorker. They materialized shortly after dark. There was, of course, almost no street traffic. One evening, as I was out walking Ariadne, one of the flappers beckoned me over and, without saying a word, handed me her New Yorker. The one on her right brandished a sign that read, "Not for everyone." This was followed in short order by the one on her left handing me a business card with the name Eustace's Witnesses and an address in Bushwick. Ariadne, as friendly a French bulldog as you would ever want to meet, seemed slightly put off by these women, but she was even more put off by the little green men who first showed up during daylight hours in the latter part of June. By the time the little green men showed up, the flappers had vanished. Within weeks, signs in English and Russian went up declaring the area to be the Gowanus Canal Zone. A plebiscite was to be held to determine whether the neighborhood would remain part of New York City or become an overseas protectorate of the Russian Federation. Then came the barbed wire perimeter fence and the tactical nuclear weapons pointed at Park Slope. But before all that happened, I had sold my loft on Carroll Street for cash to a senior executive from Gazprom and bought a two-family house in Ridgewood, Queens. That's it. I don't recall whether I mentioned that was the last piece, but that was the last piece.
You did. Thank you. It's great. Thank you, Ron. That's really that was such a great way to start the reading. It was really, those are so fun to listen to.
Oh, thank you.
Those are great. And I just wanted to say that my father was a subject of the Talk of the Town article back in the 80s. And because my father used to play clarinet in the subway. He would just go into the subway and play his clarinet. And so the fellow that was writing the Talk of the Town, Mark Singer, did a whole interview with him and, followed him around a bit. And I remember when my father told me, he was like, oh yeah, like it was in the New Yorker. I was like, Dad, you were in the New Yorker. So I'll bring you a copy of that article, Ron, because it's kind of a fun, it's like 3 pages. So thank you for bringing that up. And thank you for reading. That was really great. If you have any links to any books or anything, you put them in the chat. Okay. Feel free to do that. Okay. Thank you, Ron Bass. Next, we're going to hear from Lorette C. Luzajic. You'll correct me. Luzajic.
Yeah.
She's the founding editor of the Ekphrastic Review and the Mackinaw, a journal of prose poetry. Both really, really great journals. Seek them out if you haven't already done so, if you're not familiar with them. She writes fiction and prose poetry inspired by visual art. She teaches art history and creative writing to writers through the Ekphrastic Academy. She's also an award-winning visual artist with collectors in 40 countries so far. And she runs, and I'm adding this to her bio, she runs these wonderful Zoom workshops where she goes through all the art and then she gives you exercises to write about them. It's really wonderful. And you're so knowledgeable, Lorette, about all of this. It's just quite stunning. And also just a very nice person. So I give you Lorette C. Luzajic.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Francine. That was really sweet. Great to be here with all of you and to hear your stories. So this is a single story called The Shambles, which appeared recently in Ghost Parachute. I thought I'll read something darker because it's sort of close to Halloween. And because lately I've been writing a lot more dark stories, which tend to turn up maybe every 10 or 15 that I write. But lately I've been really enjoying them. So everything I do almost is ekphrastic, and this one was inspired by House by the Railroad by Edward Hopper. And if you know that painting, it's just a big house, but the house inspired the house in the movie Psycho. So this is what I came up with. It's called The Shambles. No one went there if they knew better. A few smart Alecs who didn't believe in evil had trekked the winding hill, ready to plant their flags. A concerned dad went looking for a misplaced boy, thought to have whipped uphill on his new birthday bicycle. And even now, no one knows where they've gone. There was a writer who'd been sweet on Agnes. Word was he'd followed her home from the tavern and never came back. She was vivacious and witty once upon a time, all eyes in the saloon on her, va-va-voom and cherry curls and all that. And something more, seductive and sinister, eyes full of promises, and a smile like a scarecrow or some other dead thing. In her day, Agnes had taken more than a few of the lonely back home for more drinks when the pub locked up at midnight. The luckiest of them re-emerged in daylight, soused, bruised, confused. They never went back and seldom talked about what had happened. like the other boys who had come home from the war. The rest of us understood how you can get lost there in the shambles. Agnes's daughter Esther lived 45 minutes away by car or across the bay like a flash if you had a boat. She hadn't set wheel or car on the west side of the water or the rolling hills where she came from since she left 40 years ago. Sometimes someone ventured up on her porch and knocked. She was amicable enough, but had little to say to reporters or evangelists. She only said the shambles were best left to their own devices. She spoke with candor, but there was a steely facade, something hermetically sealed. Esther had once told a real estate hopeful to stay away for her own good. In this world, there is mother, and there is her graveyard. Most locals have at some point given in to their morbid curiosity and driven past, ostensibly on their way to the big box stores finally planted on the other side of the hills. The old house was in and of itself austere, box style, with dormer windows, plain shake siding, and refrigerator green, the whole affair now yawning to one side. With all the scraggly trees and weeds and detritus, it was hard to see much of the house. The yard was heaped with rust and compost, piles of spent tires, the remains of a rocking horse atop them, scraps and skeletons of odd automobiles, and a sea of sad, sullied plastic playground props. And something else, something that smelled sick and rotten already from the bottom of that hill. Kind and brave churchy types left grocery donations by her mailbox on the road. Sometimes the sundries were taken, and sometimes they stayed and joined the ever-expanding sea of rubble. When we were young, Agnes was always out and about, filling her granny cart with discarded vases and yellowed paperbacks and whatever bones or shards caught her eye. Yard sale types joked over how she was the cleanup crew, and they left their picked-over remains for her to scavenge at the sides of their lawns. Other times she'd been spotted in welly boots and a few layers of ruffled cowgirl skirt, hiked up over bony knees, wading through the landscape of refuse at the local dump. But now it had been forever since anybody had laid eyes on Agnes. An intrepid journalism student from the college had once braved the cusp. Briefly, she found a trove of old photos in the fire pit in the yard behind, where the cattle roamed on their passage home. She didn't make it to the front door. Most of the pyre had been incinerated, but what was still recognizable was oddly bundled in winding twine. One of the photos that had been preserved was James, the long-ago husband who had disappeared. He simply failed one morning to show up for work at the canning factory. Folks said it was understandable that he had run off. Others were sure he had been consumed by the shambles. There were other photos, too, of people no one recognized. All of them had a strange affect, something scooped out of their eyes. If you took the most direct path to get gas or jumbo cartons of tuna or cheap cigarettes, you saw the outskirts of the shambles from your car, a half-dozen cracked open bathtubs devoured by Virginia creeper and full of broken bottles, a protective circle of oily yellow fungi impenetrable around the perimeter. Eventually the officials sent someone in with news for Agnes that her daughter was in hospice. It was a sweltering day. There were roiling swarms of box elder bugs on the hot surface of the door, but the door was ajar. The social worker slipped in grease and broke his arm on the other side of the threshold. The air was fetid with ammonia and rotten meat. They said there was nowhere to move an inch inside that place, with bundled cardboard and eerie oddments throttling every square foot. And they found her eventually, in the chimney. She was rigid and sooty. She'd been there for years, maybe decades, a frayed old fisherman's rope around her gaping maw. Thank you.
Whoa. That's whoa. That was wonderful, Lorette. My goodness. Just gripping. And someone wrote spine tingling. Really beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you for reading with us tonight. And be sure, everybody, check out the Ekphrastic Review and Mackinac, which publishes prose poetry. I know a lot of you write prose poetry. So, and the Ekphrastic Review also has a bi-weekly challenge, a painting, and then you can write poetry or micros to it. And it's great stuff. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Lorette. Pleasure. Lorette Luzajic. Okay, before I go on to our next reader, I just want to acknowledge some of the people in the Zoom room. I think I have a little bit of an Ed Sullivan complex, where he used to make people call people out in the audience. There's Diana Ross, So thank you for being here tonight. Kim Bundy, Chantel Walker, Shweta Amit, Lena Klein, Becky Parker, Kathy Cruz, Mileva Anastasia Dew, and my Aunt Miriam, who's at most of the Zooms. And Aunt Miriam is going to be 101 in January. And it's like, and just a lovely person. And yeah, so welcome to all of you. Thank you all for being here. I know that there's so many other things you could be doing, so we're delighted you're here. Okay, next we're going to hear back to our program. Next we're going to hear from Tom Hedt. I was talking before, I had gone to a writing retreat a few weeks ago in West Virginia. And yes, now you're all going to start singing the song in your heads. I get it. And I came away with some great stories, great workshop stories, but also I came away with having met some really fine and lovely people. And a few of them are here tonight. And one of them is Tom Hedt. Tom Het's work has been published widely, including Flash Boulevard, Does It Have Pockets, Bright Flash Literary Review, the Cijo International Journal of Poetry and Song, and elsewhere. His poetry compilation, Artifacts and Assorted Memorabilia, was published by Cold River Press in 2020. Tom is Associate Poetry Editor for Bending Genres. He lives in Eureka, California. I'm sorry, I had to do it. More information at thomashedt.com. Tom Hedt.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Francine. And it's wonderful how these things come together. A while back, I was fortunate enough to have a couple pieces published in Flash Boulevard. Thank you, Francine. And I'm gonna I'm gonna read one of those tonight. And if it catches anybody's attention, go to Flash Boulevard and you can pick up the B track online. Also, I've been to Lorette's ekphrastic workshops online, and those are fantastic. So wonderful connections there too. So anyway, without further ado, this is Matters of the Heart. Saturday afternoon, sunlight, green gold tangent through aluminum windows. The house smells of linens and boiled cabbage. Kurt works outside. Ursula spends the day cleaning, doing laundry. As she works, she longs for her mother. They write every week, but it's been years since they've spoken. Her mother refuses. It wasn't just that the calls were expensive. She truly feels that saying goodbye will break her heart. Some people think that a broken heart shatters like crystal and falls to the ground. It is swept with a corn broom and thrown in the trash, lost and never reconstructed. But some broken hearts are lighter than air. They float, form a cloud, expand outward. The exact shape and character is different for each. Some say the explosion that began our universe was a broken heart from a God who was unaware until that moment that they could lose everything most precious. As the dust flew, a universe formed where all that arose would be lost. But that is only one universe, and there are countless. All are not like the one where Ursula lived. She and Kurt each had their hearts broken. Those small universes stayed close and condensed. They were not shaken like crumbs from a tablecloth, did not sink into the ground and feed trees or gardens. They crept into the pockets of dresses and coats. Kurt wore his in suspenders, a light-colored cardigan, and an old mirror about 4 inches across, tarnished and black, that he carried from the antique dealers of the old country. Ursula's oldest broken hearts were kept in diaries and photographs, and in a leather suitcase that didn't open for many years until her mind had become frail and she was trying to remember the causes of her dreams. On this day of cleaning and care, Ursula's mother materialized and sat in the dining room. This startled her, but caused her to go and sit and look at her mother's form, translucent in the sunlight in the dust of the window. She simply sat and watched and listened. And then they spoke softly, as if through tin cans and string pulled taut. Ursula felt the hunger of her lost apple peel soup, sulfur smoke, ration cards, hope. Memories played chords through her, needed the steel strings that held her emotions bound so close in this body. She did not feel like a process, like an element that is trapped in forms of crystal or pearl. She felt only loneliness, the need, the absence. So she slowly and relentlessly began to build. This is a uniqueness of the drive of spirit to fill a void. That is what spirit does. From the original rush of joining the dust and water, once spirit takes root, it builds. The building is what takes time. Things topple so quickly.
Thank you so much, Tom. It was really ripping, wonderful. Tom Hedt. Okay, next we're going to hear from my friend Andrea Marcusa. Andrea lives right sort of down the street from me here in New York City. And we've had lunch several times and hung out. And she's always very, very nice about helping out, making sure that we don't get Zoom bombed, you know. And if we do, she just takes right care of it. So appreciate your help on that, Andrea. Andrea Marcusa's writings have appeared in the Gettysburg Review, Moon City Review, Milk Candy Review, Citron Review, and others. She's received recognition in a range of competitions, including Smokelong, Best Microfiction, and Cleaver, and is the author of the chapbook, What We Now Live With, Bottle Cap Press. She's a member of the faculty of the Writers Studio in New York City and is an editor at Cleaver Magazine. Andrea Marcusa.
Thank you, Francine. And Tom, that voice of yours, that is a tough act to follow. Oh my God. I was like, he should be in Hollywood. Anyway, and it's so great to be here with a lot of familiar faces. And Lorette, I've taken her classes, I've taken Francine's. I don't know about other people, but the great thing about the Flash world is that we have a good time, you know, we have fun, you know, it's not so, oh, where did you get published? You know, so anyway, tonight I'm going to just read one flash fiction. It's a little new. This might not be its last form. And it's called Win. I'm sorry about the time I slammed the tennis ball so hard you skidded, lunging toward the net, sliced at air, and fell hard on your pregnant stomach. Any week you could go into labor, your first child, a boy, of course, my brilliant, talented big sister by 5 years, chasing that shot like the varsity player you were in college. You didn't pause before swinging, and that heavy basketball belly threw you off balance and sent you sprawling. Game, set, match. After hitting the cracked concrete of the municipal court we were playing on, the one that stood behind our house, not the soft clay at the fancy country club across town, you yelped. I uttered a soft, "Oh shit," under my breath, shame splattering me like the muddy water kicked up by a passing semi. Shame for driving you so hard to prove I was better than you, that you weren't Mom's only golden girl. I saw your drained face, how you held your belly like a broken vase. You didn't say anything at first. You just stayed there on one foot and one knee, cradling your stomach. I sprinted to your side. "I'm sorry," I said. "I'm okay," you replied. "The baby? Not sure." I took hold of your cold and clammy hand and called you up, but couldn't meet your eyes. Mom must have heard us because she appeared on the edge of our yard, right on cue, to make things worse. "What's going on?" she asked. "Emily hit a tough shot. I lunged for it and I lost my balance," you said. Mom raced to your side, smoothed your hair, her touch so loving, I ached for it. Then she turned, looked at me. "You slammed the ball? What's wrong with you? What were you thinking? She's 8 months pregnant." Her face reddened, her eyes grew sharp and fierce. "When are you going to get some sense in you?" she yelled. "I'm sorry," I said. And I said it again as we stalled in traffic on our way to ER, and again when you said, "I think I'm bleeding." The baby, which had earlier been kicking like a martial artist, was now as still as stone. My mother leaned on the horn, weaving in and out of traffic. "Get out of the way," she yelled. I slumped in the back seat, swallowing back something bitter and burning. Then I apologized for saying yes when you had suggested a game of tennis, and again for later saying after we'd both warmed up, "Let's play a match." I apologized for not lending you my new tennis shoes and slipping on your old ones with worn soles instead, and for the sun in Mom's eyes as she tore down the freeway. I said sorry when the door hit your heels as you and Mom rushed into the ER, and for the cups I filled with water for the two of you when they splashed on your shirts. After the nurse led you and Mom toward the exam room, and Mom held up her hand like a crossing guard and said, "You stay here," as if I carried some contagion. I apologized to the stranger in the restroom when she heard me sobbing in the stall. But even when I didn't know if the baby would live or die, or if you would be able to carry another pregnancy, I was never once sorry for winning. All my life, you've outmatched me, never once trying to fake it and give me a win. Your little sister. I lost to you at everything: Monopoly, bike races, swimming, and the grades that you held to your chest like a treasure, basking in Mom's praise, and then regarding me with an air of superiority that you tried to mask as sympathy. And even now, after you've raised 3 children, including the one you carried that day, and I've raised 2, I'm still sorry you fell, but not that I won. If offered a rematch, I'd smash that ball as hard as I could and savor my win all over again.
Oh, that was amazing, Andrea. As always, your stories are always so poignant and just gut wrenching. Really beautiful. Thank you for sharing this. I don't I don't think you have much to do with it. I think it feels pretty solid, but I understand the tinkering instinct. But it's great. Everybody make sure you look at the comments in the chat, because you're getting some very nice comments, which I encourage. So thank you very much, Andrea Marcusa. Next, we're going to hear from Brad Rose. Brad Rose was born and raised in Los Angeles and lives in Boston. He is the author of 8 collections of poetry. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me back up. My bad. Lauren, for some reason, I skipped over you. No reflection on anything else. That's where my eyes fell on the paper. Let's go back to Lauren Kardos, who I also met at this wonderful retreat. And I'm delighted to see her here. I'm really, really very excited about this. Lauren Kardos, her writes from Washington, D.C., but she's still breaking up with her hometown in Western Pennsylvania. Hex, Cold, Signal, Milk Candy Review, Flash Fiction Online, and Best Microfiction 2022 are just a few of the fine publications that feature her stories and poems. You can find more of her work at laurenkardos.co. Lauren Kardos.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here, and Francine for hosting this. I will read a longer flash piece and then a micro tonight. I think the theme of both of these pieces is living in the nation's capital, especially the last 2 decades. A lot of existential dread. I wonder why. So I try to reimagine, what comes of that. So this first piece was recently published in Flash Fiction Online called The Body Electric. My body is a body, in which I mean it eats, sleeps, pisses, and shits, all thanks to the 200 joltaroos the ruffian at the corner gives me once per week. I am ageless, I am boundless, but I can no longer stand outside to watch our frequent thunderstorms. This galvanized heart of mine requires a fine balance. Too large a zap, and I'd be toast. Your body is no longer a body, but a little speck of dust hovering above the city of Pittsburgh, or a gulp of riverbed silt during a boiler plunge. You could double as dry shampoo, or popcorn seasoning, or diatomaceous earth. Zap, 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 killing bugs, landless and oily scalps, all before I tip out of bed and guzzle down my first fuel of the day. Our bodies, we promised to one another. You said yes, I said yes, and we kissed under a sun-dappled pergola with honeysuckle tickling our noses, sneezing away from the officiant's face because our bodies once reacted to now long dead things like pollen and mildew. Our bodies hiked the mountains around Calgary before the wildfires ate them up, sampled street food snails in Saigon's alleyways, lucking into one of the last trans-Pacific flights, waved back at saintly reliquaries in the Florentine museums, soon to be flood lost. Our bodies coupled, though failed in reproduction, but we hosted office holiday parties and volunteered for the library and animal shelter and held fundraising barbecues in the backyard, pretended at normalcy as the world worsened as it spun. Our bodies loved, held one another and most others, and we pined for a love without end. Our bodies might live forever, the scientists began saying, and the pharmaceutical companies threw onto billboards, and our doctors went along with because they were tired, harried. Insurance companies chomped at the chance to build a never-ending patient, a body doling out money, everlasting. Your procedure was scheduled the same day, right after mine. But when my anesthesia wore off, you already sat at my bedside, reading. In your sad Didion phase, you loved saying, and I felt too groggy to ask why you'd been discharged ahead of me, why you wore no gown. The tears streaming down your chin, I assumed, were nothing more than relief for surgeries complete and a heartrending book tented over your jittering knee. After the hospital, my body healed. Your body slowed with each passing year, your heartbeat turning elephantine, trudging through quicksand. You made a choice opposite my choice, as twilight sleep rendered me agreeable. You chose mortality. Why, my body raged. Your body stood tall, firm in your decision. My body pled, crawled, begged, and craved understanding. Your body offered only kind smiles and soft words against the inevitable. Why should we live forever when we've killed the bees and the trees and the fish and the fungi? Years, decades, eons would pass, and what beauty would remain? I love blaming those damn books, your shelves of grief-filled memoirs and morbid microhistories. You'd always quote from your favorite one, "Death is a gift for a life well lived." Time trotted on, and I couldn't stay mad, not when your organs stuttered and failed, all the ones they could no longer replace, while my ticker only needed the occasional winding. I haunted your bedside until the back alley jump cables couldn't wait, when the insurance stopped covering maintenance visits for me and bodies like mine. You haunted our household until you couldn't, when the spark you were born with grounded back to the earth. My body is a body I wear about our ghost gray house, cobwebs adorning the corners and the decades since you dusted. This rechargeable corpse I drag through the bare aisle supermarket, the running path down by the dried up canal. Here my body is, as long as the corner ruffians stay in business. Here your body isn't. My body electric persists without your pulse, throbbing, bleeding, next to mine. I once laughed at your prayers before mealtime, your commitment to confession every Sunday. And here I am praying into the gusts that carried your body's ash away. These days I find my hands clasping, willing the jump cables to deliver a final shock, the lightning to catch me unaware. Okay, and then this is a second one that starts depressing, ends a little more hopeful, but I wrote it after the Supreme Court decision to overturn Roe versus Wade. Not much has changed, unfortunately. This was originally in Bending Genres. This is Screaming Ourselves Hoarse. At first, the men didn't understand. Sometimes the change would happen at midnight, and other times it'd sweep through at midday. They'd wake to a bed frozen over, or they'd frown upon entering the kitchen, finding lunch absent from the table. Within the house, at least one television would have a 24-hour news cycle left on low volume. The men realized their wife/girlfriend/sister/mother/daughter was missing when the primal yelling sirened from afar, its frequency quaking the window panes. For hours, it felt the screeching and shrieking would swell, rise toward the clouds, and thicken the air like equatorial humidity. Just as sudden, it would quiet enough to hear a blowfly buzz. The summer, the women became horses. The men assumed the neighing and hoofbeats following the oral deluge was within the scope of what they usually controlled. A holiday parade unmentioned in the weekly paper, or the county fair setting up months early. Of what the men thought, the horsewomen didn't care. From the forest blessings, no longer could they be accused of nagging when they asked for sweaty socks to be placed in the hamper. No longer could they be denied promotions, denied paid leave, denied a choice. Every yard in town slished with mud from their joyful leaps and building block teeth, indulging in grass, flowers, and crops alike. They had vice-like bites for trespassing appendages. They had shoes of steel for kicking doses of sense. Whole days they could laze in the sun, munching wild strawberries and dandelions. If desired, they could nurture their fowl into horsehood in community with horsewomen who understood. If desired, they could leap over the fence posts and walls and highways to stomp dance in clover-filled clearings until memory fell away. Thank you all.
Beautiful, Lauren. I really loved in the first piece that your body, my body idea. That was really, really great. And both stories were wonderful. Thank you for being here with us tonight. And nice to see you again after that wonderful retreat that we were at. It was just really great. It was, if you don't know about it, Ellen Weirin, and she has if you're on Facebook, she has a group called A Reason to Write, and see if you can join it. It's just a great group. And she also runs retreats and all kinds of wonderful things. So look for that. And thank you for being here with us tonight, Lauren Kardos. Next, we're going to hear from Brad Rose. Brad Rose was born and raised in Los Angeles and lives in Boston. He is the author of 8 collections of poetry and flash fiction, or words to that effect. I wouldn't say that exactly. Lucky Animals, No Wait, I Can Explain, Pink X-Ray, D Notations, and Momentary Turbulence. Brad is also the author of 7 poetry chapbooks, among them Democracy of Secrets and Evil Twin is Always in Good Company. And funny you should ask, his website is bradrosepoetry.com. Brad Rose.
Thanks very much, Francine. I'm going to read 5 one-paragraph pieces. First one is called Who Could Ask for More? Like medieval combat in the antique future, I'm doing all the right things wrongly. Fortunately, thanks to my canned laughter and fast frozen giggles, I'm living the dreamsicle. But just to be on the safe side, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the giraffes for being so tall and the sharks for keeping their distance. I may be approaching the 11th hour, but I'm looking forward to getting a leg up on the competition. After 4 marriages and 2 divorces, I'm confident that I'm starting to get the hang of it. In fact, soon I'll be able to decapitate the hidden hierarchy without so much as popping a single bubble on the bubble wrap. Of course, one day everyone will inevitably lose everything. But like the executioner's reply to his job satisfaction survey, who could ask for more? Nobody's fault but mine. I'm always thinking about who I can blame things on, but in my sleep, I'm just another lost city. If I'm not mistaken, the dead like to follow rules. Of course, for many, it's difficult to get comfortable, so I suggest you disregard their laid-back exterior, their seeming nonchalance. Like you and me, they're always behind schedule. Last night, in my drunken hat and fluorescent pants, I thought I'd landed my dream job. Bloodshot and twisted, the rough and tumble ruckus raised my spirits until Miss 20th Century Vavavoom asked, "Why work so hard in the dust factory, Winston? After all, you're only burning empty calories." As the lights dimmed and the yellow barbed spikes began to gently caress the determined revelers, I thought, this is the last going away party I'm ever going to invite myself to. Earwigs. While I'm on the subject, have you noticed how I've turned over a new leaf? Yeah, I'm like a whole new person because my skin replaces itself every 27 days, come rain or come shine. I feel just like a burning Christmas tree on a foggy New Year's Day. I think this might be due to my discount tattoos. After I woke up from my general anesthesia, my tattooist informed me that my randomly selected body art is an exact replica of a mysterious object of unknown origin. Some people say it reminds them of a UFO or a CIA dance music. At least now I'm able to sleep uphill in 2 directions without batting an eye. I've even got 4.5-star ratings on Godzilla. You know, that AI self-aggrandizement app, all the glitterati you're raving about. It makes you sound like you skipped the 4th grade twice. I've even reapplied for my current job, although I may not be fully qualified. But thanks to my elementary mind reading skills, I'm still able to figure out exactly what I think. Here, try on one of these new serrated antennas. There's no reason only fire ants should have all the pyromaniacal fun. No, don't worry about the earwigs. They can't hear a thing. Shoulder season. It's shoulder season, so I need to sharpen the blades of my backyard guillotine. The best defense is an extremely succinct offense. It's an uphill battle, but luckily it's the greatest thing in the world for your brain. Also, it looks impressive on your resume. Of course, there's only so much a sentient being can be expected to withstand. Here's a list of some of the recent winners. No, I don't speak French, but I have a beautiful Parisian accent. In fact, I've been training my hair to look the part. You know, existentially new wave. When you do it yourself, you never know what you're going to get, but I like to leave the door open. Besides, no one knows where the bodies are buried. And the last piece is called Tall Plans. This just appeared in the Gorko Gazette. Gonna buy some giant furniture for my 50-foot tall fiance. I love her like I'm twice my height. We're planning a destination wedding at the zoo. Maybe we'll have a big cash giveaway and a family-friendly barbecue on the meaty grass. With little luck, Everyone will be exempt from capital gains tax. After our honeymoon, she and I plan to move into a little palace with old worm charm and a sunken living room jacuzzi. Until then, I promise not to look at the other girls, at least until after the ceremony. I mean, who doesn't like to have a little fun now and then? Basketball, anyone? Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. And as always, just wild and hilarious and brilliant at the same time. So I keep saying the scientists are going to want to examine your brain, see
Thanks,
where
Francine.
it's all
Thanks.
like, it weaves and then, great stuff, Brad. Thank you for being here with us tonight, Brad Rose.
Thank you.
Okay, next, someone I met in online in a Sarah Fraley workshop. And the reason I call out Sarah Fraley is she was at the West Virginia retreat.
Yeah.
So we all took a class with her, the three of us here who were there. And that was great. And we chatted, Jennifer and I chatted a bit afterwards, and here we are. Wonderful writer, Jennifer Maloney writes poetry and fiction. Recent work can be found in Peach Fuzz magazine, Many Nice Donkeys literary magazine, and Flash Boulevard. Her latest chapbook, Red, is available for pre-order at Claire Songbirds Publishing. We'll put the link in the chat if you would. And her chapbook, Maps of the World, is forthcoming this month from Raw Earth Ink Publishing. So you've got a lot going on there, Jennifer Maloney. Welcome.
Thank you. So thanks so much for asking me to read. I've read here once before and also in Prose Garden, and just enjoy the heck out of being here and reading. This is called Some Notes on How to Survive in Hell. It isn't easy, but it can be done. First, whatever they feed you, hide under your tongue. Spit it out when the devil turns away. Just like in a fairy tale, if you eat the food in hell, you are lost forever. Do as you're told and expect the consequences. You are doing it wrong. No matter what they said, how they showed you. You're wrong. You have to pay for that. Don't fight. Close your eyes and relax. Remember, the devil will be nice sometimes. Will say something kind. You will want to believe it. You will learn that you can't, and learning that will cost you too. A magical thing happens. Outside of hell, you start to make friends. You know how. You have to please the devil each night. Smile, crack a sarcastic joke, you're in. You can have the celery that comes with the wings. No blue cheese. No pizza, egg rolls, ice cream. If you swallow something without thinking, get rid of it. You know how. Food is for the undamned. You can have a Coke. One day, one of the boys pours rum in it, and you make another friend. Problems will arise. The nice English teacher wants 500 words on something your family likes to do together. How do you respond? Begin, my father enjoys. Backspace it away. Write, my mother sometimes likes to. Stop. Next class say you forgot. Your teacher will give you another day. Go to the girls' room to puke. What comes up is as thin and yellow as the dog's vomit. Your classmates giggle on the other side of the stall doors. When you emerge to brush your teeth and hair, someone stage whispers, "Look, it's anorexia. Is she full of bulimia?" Not anymore, to a chorus of laughter. In a couple more hours, you can have your rum and coke. It's all you need. It will be enough. Try stealing one of the devil's razor blades. Hide it in your car. At lunch, it's there waiting for you instead of a sandwich. Choose the upper, inner thigh. It's nearly invisible. Make a slit and climb inside. Now you are nearly invisible too. Head back to class with the thermos of coffee you packed. The teachers think you're very grown up. If you get blood on your pants, act embarrassed. Say you have your period. You don't. You haven't had a period in months. You are reverting to babyhood. You are becoming pure again. The devil will be pleased. Watch the calendar for June. For graduation, your friends will invite you to their parties. You can't go. The devil thinks you'll get drunk and have sex at a party someone's mother planned. The devil seems to be deluded regarding where those things might actually occur. In August, pack the car. Tell the devil you don't need help moving into the dorm. Say you'll be at home at Thanksgiving. The devil will hug and kiss you and tell you that they're proud of you. Relax. Close your eyes and smile. You know how. On the outskirts of hell, just before you get on the highway, there's a little ice cream parlor that you've been to once or twice. Decide to finally get a scoop. You made it. You deserve it. Order vanilla with chocolate jimmies in a cardboard dish. Get on the highway. Put Tom Petty on loud as possible. Open the windows and sing, "Oh yeah, all right. Take it easy, baby. Make it last all night." Because you are an American girl, raised on promises. In hell. Let the ice cream melt, untouched, on the seat beside you. You made it out of hell, but it's still so strangely hot. Throw the soupy, speckled remains in the trash at the nearest rest stop and find a bathroom. You feel sick. On the way back to the car, the Travel Plaza liquor store rises before you, the door swinging open like the gates of heaven. Enter prayerfully with gratitude for your excellent fake ID. Here, in this place, you are at last certain of salvation. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Jennifer, that was amazing and just eerie. And I haven't heard you in a little bit, and I somehow, and I don't know how this is possible, forgot what a great dramatic reader you are. Which just added so much to the already wonderful piece. And of course, that little Ron Bass mentioned the Tom Petty interlude, which is awesome. Great voice.
Thank you.
So thank you for reading with us tonight, Jennifer Maloney. Okay, we have two more readers left. Thanks everybody for hanging in. This is Colleen Kearney-Rich. She is the third person that I met at the retreat. And I think you can see like why it was so wonderful. Like the people that were there were just wonderful. So Colleen Kearney-Rich is the author of the chapbooks Things You Won't Tell Your Therapist from Finishing Line Press 2019 and Bunnyman Bridge A3 Press 2021. Her writing has been published in the literary journals Smokeland Quarterly, Wigleaf, Matchbook, and Pithead Chapel, among others. She has an MFA from George Mason University in Virginia, where she also works. Colleen Kearney-Rich.
Thanks, Francine. This has been so nice. Thanks everybody for coming and sharing the work. This has been amazing. I'm going to read one piece of flash that was published in Janus Literary, and they never came back from their hiatus, and I'm really sad about that. I've always really enjoyed the work there. So this is called Heart in Hand. When the clerk at the hardware store asks about her fingerless gloves, the fancy red ones she treated herself to, there is a moment when she forgets. The clerk is asking if she rides. Rides what, she thinks, and then she remembers. The gloves. No, she tells the clerk, and quickly takes her purchases. The gloves are a part of her now. At work, people no longer ask. Others, she's sure, imagine a germ phobia or a horrific scar. It is a scar of sorts, but nothing they could imagine. Sometimes she blames Stephen King for planning the Colonel, the idea that it could be something other, with the cover of the ratty old paperback book of stories she found in her grandparents' basement so long ago, the eyes peering from a hand half covered in gauze, an image that haunted her for years. In the story, those eyes belong to aliens, but hers, who knows? Most often she blames herself. Her carelessness in that dark foreign cave when she really should have been wearing gloves. Her inattention to the scrape on her hand that seemed so minor she didn't give it a second thought until it wouldn't heal. In just a few weeks, it went from scrape to rash to callus to the supernatural thinning of skin like a window in her hand. At first, the gloves were protection, to keep salves in place, to keep the wound clean. Now they represent a different kind of protection. She never liked spelunking anyway, she tells herself. The crawling in mud, the bat guano. She shudders when she thinks of the dark places she willingly crawled into to please the caveman, to keep his attention. The caveman, her fiancé, she thinks nostalgically, couldn't deal with her new situation. At least that's what she tells herself late at night in her small efficiency apartment. Alone, but never really alone. Not anymore. He said she had changed. She was closed off. That he needed to work on himself, focus on his own goals. But the truth was she felt the presence even then, something ancient and knowing, even in their most intimate moments. She was protecting him. Couldn't he see that? This, of course, is after the months of appointments with doctors, after the prescriptions for different salves and creams, even steroids, and attempts to get her left palm to calm down and be normal. After the pretty dermatologist decides to do a shaving and get that to the lab, the excision hurt worse than anything she had ever known and propelled her into darkness. She knew the beautiful doctor was moments from calling an ambulance when they couldn't revive her quickly with their smelling salts and ice pack. She also knew it was protecting itself, starting to fight back. She never returned to the doctor's office. There are times when she has to take the glove off, times she peers into that scrim of skin through which she can clearly see veins and tendons of her hand and something else, a glow. She knows it's not an eye in the traditional sense, but she feels seen in a way she isn't comfortable with and judged, as though there is an audience watching her through this portal of skin. Not alien, she thinks, but something primordial, something left behind on purpose, which was never meant to leave that dark underground space. She has had to be vigilant. She can sense the hand's reluctance to do what she expects of it. Just milliseconds of reaction time, but still there. When she wakes one morning to the hand stroking her hair, She pretends not to notice and begins to plan. She chooses a busy campground, the kind she would normally shy away from, but she will need help from strangers. She places her purchases, a small hatchet and a bundle of wood, in the trunk of her RAV4 with the other camping supplies. There will be an accident, a life-changing one, but one she can survive, and it will never suspect a thing. Thank you.
Beautiful, Colleen. It was really, really beautiful. Someone said, I love the mystery here. It was great. Thank you for reading here with us tonight, Colleen Kearney Rich. Hey, I feel very lucky to, I never really know what people are going to read, and you all just bring it. So thank you for that. Our final reader tonight is M.C.Neuda. She writes poetry and short stories, both literary and genre, including crime stories. Her work has been published in top flight magazines online and in print, as well as honored in competition. She's begun to focus on writing essays, one of which she will read now. Is that what you're still going to do, MC?
No.
That was
No.
in your bio, so that's right. Yeah, but I know you had communicated with me earlier, so yeah.
Right. So I'm going to read one crime story.
Great.
And it's called Death Rattle. Florian lies on his deathbed. I'm counting the minutes now before he breathes his last and leaves me finally to live a life on my own terms. Florian is my husband. For 26 years, he's made me a slave to his wishes. If he wanted to go to a concert, we went, whether the music gave me a headache or not. If he wanted to travel, we traveled, whether I stood to lose a teaching job or not. If he wanted to have kinky sex, he made sure we did, whether it humiliated me or not. If he wanted to dress me down in front of his friends, sometimes literally, he did it, whether it made me cry or not. He never actually hit me, but he might as well have, all his other actions shocking me into submission, fear, resentment, and finally, loathing. He was healthy too, even though he was 18 years older than I, and he kept himself in shape by going to the gym religiously. I use that word purposely. Domination of every sort, whether of his body or of business rivals or of me, was his religion. That's how it would have continued if he hadn't had a heart attack. At least, that's what they thought he had, the doctors, his friends. I knew better, having carefully mixed the contents of one blue capsule, his dominating his dick, into a glass of his favorite Pinot Noir. The third heart attack took him to where he is now, lying in wait for the grim reaper. It won't be long, says the nurse. She goes to check on him while I sit by the window with rosary beads in hand. You think I'm a hypocrite? I'm not praying for him, certainly not that his passage be easy. Let him suffer for all the years I did. No, I'm praying that he not wake from his coma, but take my secret safely to his grave. You see, he knows what I did. He accused me of it before his final collapse. The nurse touches his arm. She starts back, a little scream escaping her lips. Florian is sitting up. a moan escaping his. He opens his eyes, he shifts his legs onto the floor, he gets up out of bed and points at me. A chill goes down my spine. When he starts shouting, though, I take heart. I remember what happens near death. You travel to an earlier time, an earlier place, an earlier language. In his case, Albanian. Frazes, he shouts. Frazes, Frazes. What is he saying? Asks the nurse in awe. I don't know. I never learned Albanian, I lie, with all the conviction a duplicitous woman can bring up in times of need. He's calling me a murderer. It becomes a diatribe, on and over again. Frazes, Frazes. I listen to him with an appropriate expression of perplexity and sadness on my face. For 30 minutes, he goes on until he can no longer stand. He falls back onto the bed, gasps a little, dies. I think of kissing his lips, his forehead, but can barely bring myself to take the rosary and wind it in his fingers. For the benefit of the nurse, I say, "You were always a fighter, my darling." Inwardly, for his benefit, though he can no longer hear me, I say, I won. Thank you.
Wow, I think I speak for everybody when I say wow.
I wasn't sure you wanted to end with that, you know.
It was amazing, and really, I mean, what a great dramatic reading that was. In
Thank you.
addition to it being just a gripping story, like your delivery just really just upped it, is beautiful. And I remember hearing you read in person. I know MC from the New York poetry scene, but because of COVID, it's been a few years. And I would remember she would just read these stories and just, oh my God, knock me out. And so we ran into each other at a reading last week. And I was so glad to see you.
Yeah,
And
me too.
yeah,
Me too.
so that's great. I'm glad to be back in your loop, And thank you so much for reading that wonderful story so wonderfully. I think the theme really for tonight has been just gripping and lyrical and funny and just wonderful stuff. And that was M.C.Neuda. Thank you for being with us tonight. Great reading. I want to thank our readers, Ron Bass, Lorette Luzajic, Tom Hedt, Andrea Marcusa, Lauren Kardos, Brad Rose, Jennifer Maloney, Colleen Kearney Rich, and M.C.Neuda. You are all wonderful. This recording will be up soon, and so it has a second life. People that were somewhere else can get to see it. You can share it, and it'll be on YouTube. Okay, well, thank you so much again. This is Flash Boulevard. Flash Boulevard. FBOMB. I'm like, this is FBOMB Flash Global Flash Reading. I'm losing it here, folks. FBOMB Global Flash Reading. And we're here once a month, usually the second Friday, and look forward to seeing you all again. This is Francine Witte from New York City in a fake bookstore behind me. Thank you for being here tonight, and drive safely. Good night.
Thank you all. Wonderful evening.